Strongheart and Bronze Dragon, each sold separately.
Beware, Strongheart. We will cast an evil spell and steal the treasure.
Well, evil is no match for good. The treasure is safe.
Advanced Dungeons & Dragons action figures, Kelek, Warduke, Bronze Dragon, Strongheart, each sold separately from LJN.
All right, welcome back, boys and girls, to another edition of Top 10 Toys. This week, I'm going to look at something pretty near and dear to my heart, and that's Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Now, this was a very weird toy line. They had a number of different types of toys that they released, and they were all really cool, and I had quite a few of them, I must admit. Now, Dungeons & Dragons, apart from being a comic book that I did happen to enjoy, also was obviously the game that everybody knows of. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of people in my area who were interested in such things, so I kind of had to force some of my friends to try to play it, and I wasn't of an age to really understand what I was doing, so I had all the dice, and we would do things like make up the character sheets, but then never really got into a really good adventure. So I gotta say that I never really got to play Dungeons and Dragons, and I always wanted to. Even as an adult, I would play now if there were people in my area that did it, but I don't know. Maybe one of these days I'll get around to it. That said, it's a very interesting concept to me, just this idea, and they have all these different modules that you could have gotten to have these many different adventures, that they would have maps and plans, and it just seems like it would have been a good time. That said, the other real big touch point for me with Dungeons and Dragons had to have been those old Choose Your Adventure novels. Those, turn to page 15 for, to open the door or open the treasure chest. And, it could have been booby-trapped or you could get the treasure. Like, it was a fun little thing that you got to make decisions and turn to the page to get the results of what you decided. I actually just ordered a couple of these old books online to try to engage my 8-year-old son. So I figure we'll go through it and see how the adventures turn out for us as we read through them. That said, going back to the toys, and that's what we're here for. It's not for the books. It's not for the games. We're here to talk about the toys. And the toys, for the most part, was largely based on a regular kind of action figure series, as you can kind of see in some of the advertisements here I got up on the screen. There was bases like the Fortress of Fangs, and just a lot of the line were just fantastical creatures and warriors and wizards and all that fun fantasy stuff. But again, the line wasn't just limited to just those action figures. So I'm just going to give a quick little brief overview on some of the things that the line had, and then we're going to get into our top 10. So without further ado, now, one of the weird little things they offer were wind-up toys. Again, they were trying to engage a lot of different age groups and a lot of different, collector types. So they had some of these wind-up creatures that you could buy. I don't remember having any of these, but, I don't remember everything that I used to have. So there's a chance that I might have, had the odd wind-up toy here or there. But you see, they were all branded the same Advanced Dungeons & Dragons brand, and it just was little wind-up creatures. In addition, they also had these like PVC type figures that they were almost like, I don't know if anybody else had like the Smurfs. They weren't posable. They weren't articulated action figures. These were just, posed kind of fingers. So here, we have, a good frog goes to war. These look like Kermit getting ready to battle. And that's what these guys were. I think they were bullywogs or something like that. Don't remember all the names today, but that was something else that they had as an option, as well as some of these more like bendable creatures. I think this was a Hydra, and then it was kind of a flexible, rubbery kind of toy that it almost could be passed off as a Godzilla monster of some kind. But it basically, you can bend and pose it in a lot of different ways, and that was just another type of toy that they had. In addition to some of the other monsters like this bronze dragon that went more with the action figures, the action figure line that this series had. So again, they thought of a lot of different things. They had a lot of different options for people to buy, collect, play, and all that fun stuff. Because again, this is built out of a game culture that had where you use your imagination for the most part. Sure, you can have a lot of the little things to help tell that story. Like you can have your little pewter figures that you could paint yourself and all of that as representatives, on the maps and things like that. But for the most part, a lot of it was just the story being told by your dungeon master and how your adventure played out. So getting to the action figures here. These toys, they were pretty standardized. I mean, they weren't bad for the time. They didn't have that very small. They were larger size. They weren't in that weird muscle pose of the Masters of the Universe, and yet they weren't so rigid as like a Kenner Star Wars, where they had some decent motion to them, some decent articulation, and the weapons were really great. I will admit, because I used a lot of the weapons from these toys for other figures. Like in particular, this guy looks like a Disney Hercules character of some kind. Like I remember taking that kind of Spartan helmet and putting it on like a Masters of the Universe figure, because they had that softer kind of like rubbery head, and you could just kind of force a lot of things on if it didn't fit exactly right. And giving like a lot of these swords and shields, it was fun. I mixed and matched a lot of my stuff when I was a kid. Use your imagination. That's what I always did anyway. But so they had like those larger figures, and then they had a later edition where they actually added some motion to them. The Battlematic action figures as well, where I think there it's like a little lever in the back would give you a little, almost like a superpowers kind of a action, like where the figures would actually do something. So that was another selling point, which is going to lead us kind of into our number 10 pick. So with our first addition into our top 10, we're going to go with Kelek. And this was a wizard figure. And this was on that blue carded later card, I think, that also was most of the Battlematic guys were. But I don't know if this Kelek was a Battlematic. I don't see the notation on the packaging that it was in the image here. But this figure averages only about $56 or so. I tried to do my best to gather up all the numbers for all of these, so a lot of my choices here in the 10 were just some of the ones that stood out most to me, as well as how much I could find sale price wise. So Kelek sells for about $56 or so, but there was a high of about 111. Loose, you can find these things a lot of times in like the $10, $25 range, really. But it all depends on what exactly you're looking for. I mean, a lot of these pieces have, a lot of weapons. They have a lot of accessories, staffs, even clothes and cloaks and clothing. Like Kelek here, you can see he has a wizard robe, which isn't always, found with the figure. So if you have one, that helps, helps the resale value. If you don't, you're going to get a little bit less. So Kelek at about $56 is why he's coming in at number 10. So this is going to take us to move on to our number 9. And our number 9 is one I do remember having. This Northlord figure is coming in about $82 or so, with a high of about 150. I just remember the light blue on this. I think I lost that helmet pretty quickly, but the shield was really cool. That axe was another one that I let my He-Man figures use a lot of times as well. And the swords. Again, the weapons were really good on this series of toys, I will admit. That's the thing that really stood out for me. For whatever reason, when I was a kid, I really focused in on the weapons. Like, a lot of times, I liked the weapons more than the figures they might have come with. I remember there was, like, these pirate figures. I can't remember the toy line, like Dark Shadows or something. It's like a pirate toy line, but I just really liked the weapons that those guys came with, but I didn't really care so much about the figures. I just wanted the weapons. But that sidebar aside, so Northlord is our number 9, because again, you can see it's a pretty standardized figure. It is kind of a cross of like a big G.I. Joe almost. You have a little bit of the posability, but they're on a little bit of a larger scale. So this was closer to like a 5-inch, 5-inch size, maybe like maybe toy. And again, the weapons were the key selling point for me. But Northlord is our number 9. So we're gonna move on from him to our number 8, which this little guy, the dwarf, this is Elkhorn. You can see he's got a pretty cool little sword and shield as well. Everybody came with some great accessories. And Elkhorn's going to be the first one to crack that $100 mark, and he's averaging about $122 or so. And the high that I found was about 165, and that was a Battlematic version of this figure, which had a little, I think, a sword swinging action of some kind. But Elkhorn, you can see pretty cool mold, and these are the things that you would, for the most part, think of when you think of like a fantasy figure. You get the dwarves, you get the soldiers, the paladins, the wizards, the mages. Some of the color choices were, I think, made to kind of get kids to, want to pick these up off the rack. Like, they may not be the traditional, warrior type colors. So you give the dwarf a blue beard and a really yellow gold helmet, so it pops. It stands out a little bit more, just like Northlord having a lot of light blue in his uniform. It may not have been traditional in the sense of what you might imagine some of these characters might be in that kind of sword and sorcery world, but it helped the toys, again, pop off that shelf. So Elkhorn was our number 8, which is going to take us to number 7. And this is not the most well sculpted figure, I would say, in the line. This Zorgar, he is not a pretty man. He is definitely not a pretty man. If you look at that face, that's a face only a mother could love. It's a very sloth-like, and he actually doesn't come with a lot of accessories there. It looks like he's got a little bit of a studded club, and that's really it. Maybe a little dagger as well. But this is a rough-looking dude, I just got to say. But hey, he is our number 7. I'm sorry, Zorgar, and he's averaging $175, and the high was about $250. So Zorgar still ain't cheap. Even if he ain't pretty, he ain't cheap. Which is going to take us to our number 6. And with number 6, we are looking at a Battlematic figure, and this is Strongheart, I believe his name is. Yeah, Strongheart. This is a Battlematic figure. This is averaging about $190, and the high, I think there's the only one that sold, was just this one. The regular figure is only about $75 for the basic kind of carded version of this, but the Battlematic, sold for a premium about $190. This is like traditional looking knight. He's got the winged helmet. He's got the plume coming out of the top there. Silver armor, little blue, obvious hero, definite hero look, and a pretty cool sword to come with him. So Strongheart is our number 6, which is going to take us to our top 5. And starting off our top 5, we have this elf-looking like a figure. I want to say her name is Mercion, and I found one sold for about $222, which is why she's coming in at number 5. Pretty cool. She's got a little staff. She's a good cleric, female character. That's another thing. You didn't get a lot of warrior type or female characters in a lot of these lines, or if you did, you usually just got the one. And it looks like Mercion is our one for this Dungeons and Dragons toy line. And again, I'm not sure if she's an elf, but she definitely looked like an elf to me, or that's how I imagined her when I had her, to play with back in those days. And as you can see, a lot of times in what I can find with these pictures, the robes and whatnot, those get lost along the way. So you can see she's got the just chainmail armor underneath, which is still a pretty cool look. But if you want to get that premium, you got to have all the accessories to go with it. But this little double-studded staff was still kind of pretty cool. I think I actually let my G.I. Joes use it because it fit into their hands. Broken thumb here or there. But again, weapons. I don't know what to tell you. I like them. So we're going to move on to our number 4. And our number 4 was probably one of my favorites of this line. And this is that Warduke character. Just awesome-looking villain look. Got that tough-looking blue helmet with the kind of like bat wings flowing out, the pretty cool armor. It's almost got an uneven two-faced kind of quality to it, with the armor like on one side and a more raw, warrior on the other. And get a pretty tough sword, pretty cool shield. Warduke was definitely, like I said, one of my favorites. And this came in at averaging about $240, and I found an AFA graded 80 that sold for about $320. For that Warduke. So that kind of moved up the average. I usually don't work in AFA graded figures into the normal averagings, but there aren't a lot of sales for these Dungeons and Dragons figures, so I had to take what I could find. So that is what we had there. And again, just checking out this figure, it was just an awesome sculpt to me. I love the glowing eyes inside that helmet. Again, just gorgeous figure, and brings my memories back. Rushing back to me. So with that, this is going to take us into our top 3. And our number 3 is a character called Hawkler, who sold for $345. And loose, this is still, I think one sold for $136. So Hawkler's a little bit tough. it looks like he's like a shirtless warrior, but if you actually look at it, I think that is just the color of his shirt is just that kind of like a beige, just kind of generic looking tunic of some kind. And so it does look like he's a shirtless warrior, but if you look at the mold, you can see the buttons, I think, on the shirt. I don't know if he's sleeveless or not, but this Hawkler figure, it pretty generic looking to me, to be honest. Definitely not my favorite. I mean, the bow is kind of cool, but and it looks like he comes with is that a hawk that came with him? I can't really see very clearly, but still, Hawkler. I mean, it would make sense if he did. Definitely not my favorite character, but still, I don't even know if I had this one. This one does not ringing any bells, but he's still our number 3 because $345 is nothing to sneeze at. So moving on to number 2. Number 2, we are going with another hero character, and this is Deeth, who sold for $455. Carded here. This is again another Battlematic figure. See that pretty cool eagle shield. There's looks like a spiked mace, like a swinging. I think those things are called a mace. I'm not sure if I'm getting the weapon terminology correct tonight, but sword shield looks much like a knight that you would expect. Pretty cool figure. And again, these Battlematics, I think they're a little harder to find because, like I said, I think these were a later release and they might have made less. Usually towards the end of a toy line when they're shutting down, they don't make as many as they might have in the initial run. So I think that's why we might see a premium on some of these Battlematics. At least that's what I could find. So Deeth is our number 2 character here, or figure, I should say, which is going to take us to our number 1. And our number 1 is another villain. And this is Grimsword, and another Battlematic character. And Grimsword is coming in at a solid $500. Again, another villain, pretty cool sculpt. That snake kind of wrapped around the armor. He also has like a mace, like a spiked ball mace on a chain that he's swinging around with a shield. Awesome looking armor. That looks like little dragon heads coming off the top of his helm. Not as cool as Warduke to me. His face and mold almost kind of reminds me of a Micronauts figure. It looks like a little bit like Lord Zardon, but or maybe a Shogun warrior even, shrunken down, but still really cool and definitely worth having. I mean, I do kind of like that snake wrapped around the armor, and it's a nice touch to have that kind of like flaming tongue moving up to the corner of that spiked out shoulder that his armor has. So I think it is a pretty cool figure regardless. Again, I'm a little biased. Warduke was my favorite, so I was kind of hoping he could come out on top. But hey, the numbers speak for themselves. So $500, Grimsword is coming in on the top. So that is my list of 10. But as you know by now, I don't just leave it there. I always have to have honorable mentions. These, as you notice, these were just figures. These were just the straight action figures that kind of typical that you might expect. And as I mentioned at the top of this video, there were a lot of different other types of toys that they released with this line. So I kind of broke up the section of honorable mentions into kind of 2 parts. So the first grouping I'm going to show you are more like the PVC and like the bendable type figures that came separately, non-articulated really, and more rubbery, kind of like a standard, almost statuesque kind of things. And then after that, we'll have like the monsters and the bases, basically. So let's get into it. So for my first honorable mention, again, going with these PVC figures, is the Shambling Mound. I know what you're thinking. You're looking at this, you see Man-Thing. At least that's what I see. I see Man-Thing when I look at it, but this is the Shambling Mound. You can pretend it's Man-Thing all you want. It's still a pretty cool sculpt, pretty cool mold, and I got to say, I did love that bag of gold that he came with. Again, I just love the accessories. The accessories were the best, whether it be the weapons or even things like this little sack of gold was nice to have a prize, to have your little heroes going and searching for. So, Shambling Mound. I'm not really ranking these in any way or not. You can get one of these carded even for about $38 or so. I think I saw a high of about 45, and loose carded on this is not much of a difference. The loose ones are selling for $10 to $35, so shambling mount, if you're looking for it, or man thing, he can be had for relatively cheap. Which is going to take me to my next one. And this is a 2-pack of these PVC figures and the Skeleton Soldiers of Sith. Yeah, I picked this one just because it had Sith in there, because it made me think of Star Wars, and I thought it was kind of cool. So these Skeleton Soldiers, I do remember having them. Again, they didn't do anything apart from just stand there. So they were just kind of, they're almost statuesque. You put them on a shelf or on a bookcase and, use your imagination. But as far as play goes, there wasn't much to be offered because they were just posed PVC figures, but still pretty cool nonetheless. And these Skeleton Soldiers of the Sith, again, it's about $45-50. Carded 15 to 20 loose. And I don't know if you're going to get one or both, or what you might find if you were to find them out there, but it's still relatively cheap, all things considered, with toys this old. Because we're talking about, this is early to mid 80s that I think these figures came out. So I got one more of these PVC type figures, and this is going to go back to more of those posable, bendable figures. And this is the Carrion Crawler that I found, and this thing actually sold pretty well. This sold for $144. So this one was a little tougher than most, carded, obviously. But you can see it looks just like a bendable, rubbery PVC thing where underneath you could see like they have the little dots where you could do the extra bend. I guess that gave it a little bit of breathing room, some air holes that helped you do the posability spots within it. So you could see underneath they would have like those little holes in the plastic where the wireframe underneath could hold its position a little bit better. But so the Carrion Crawler is the last of those monster PVC type bendable figures that we're looking at here. So this is going to take us into our monsters and bases section of honorable mentions. And with that, my first monster that I want to look at here is I don't know if it's Dragon or Dragony, but this is about $100, roundabout, for this figure. It almost looks a bit like a griffin, or it's got a bit of a lion head, or almost like it's not just a straight dragon that you would expect with this total scales. Like, it has claws, and it looks like a bit of fur, and the wings, and a mane. So it's definitely got a different look to it. So this dragon figure is one of those monsters that were a little bit on the larger side. There was a couple of monsters I do remember. There was like a hooked hand character as well. Then I think I had an image in the slideshow earlier of him. But some of these monsters were really cool, and they still sell pretty well. So, as I showed before, we have the Fortress of Fangs. I had to have the base, this set. I actually covered this on the Vintage Toy Market Watch a couple of weeks back, because I saw one sell, because this thing is not easy to find altogether. In fact, this is, you can get it, and there's sales of about $276. I saw one sell for about $405, but that also had it was complete and it was open, but it had some extra figures with it as well. So you're usually getting these in lots for the most part, but you're still going to have a hard time finding a complete, and especially with the box. But you can see it's a little base. It's pretty cool. There's like a gargoyle on top. There's like little traps and treasure inside, and even some of just the little pieces of this can sell for decent money. As you can see, there's just some little bits and parts that you can find with some of these things. And I know I've shown that kind of stuff before, but just finding the parts can sometimes make you a few bucks, because somebody's out there trying to complete their set when they just need that piece, and you might have lucked into it somewhere along the line. So I got one more for you, and this background hopefully didn't give it away too much, but my last one is Tiamat, and this is the 5-headed evil dragon. Again, I showed a quick image of it earlier. Pretty cool. I mean, it is a dragon. It's got 5 heads. It's got the different colored heads because the heads did something different. You have like the ice dragon, the flames, and a lot of different stuff. A lot of fun ideas that can play out of this this fantasy world. And this is a toy that is not easy to come by, or at least not come by on the cheap. This is about $577 on the average. I found 3 sales, and the high on this one was about $681. So not a cheap figure, especially if you can find it, whole. because that is not always the easiest thing to do. I mean, some of these things, I found parts where, just the wings were selling pretty well. I think I found a bit where, you could get this like with a missing wing for like $170, right? And, that's not a complete toy. But then if you want the wing, somebody else bought just the wing for $150 just for the wing, to add to it. So this, I mean, you put it together, that person's into it for a little over $300, they might make out. So, maybe you can build. Maybe it makes sense to build and go through the parts, but $150 for a wing is crazy to me. I understand this stuff is tough to come by. I'm not saying it's not worth it. It's still kind of insane when I think back on this. Like, I never would have imagined that when I was a kid and pulling the wings off just to see if I can switch things around. And to think that I was taking something that was $150 off of my toy. Anyway, so that is my list. Again, Dungeons & Dragons is a cool line of toys, as well as just, it is. It's Dungeons & Dragons. People know what it is. I think they're revamping it with a movie, because the one movie I do remember seeing like 20 years ago, was that Marlon Wayans one, Jeremy Irons. Whew, that was rough. That was rough. So hopefully if they're doing another one, they do it right and do it justice, because it is a rich world full of a lot of characters and creatures that we take for granted today as it's just commonplace. But a lot of these ideas were unique for the time. So with that, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe to my channel, as well as Tales from the Flip Side. I hope you're enjoying this look back on toys. I realize I am kind of focused and locked in on the 80s right now. I will try to do some more modern stuff as things come along, but I'm just doing what's coming natural to me, what is gathering my interest week to week. So I did see a suggestion for Buck Rogers in one of the comments. I will be covering that. I do remember Buck Rogers, and I had a few of those as well. So I might start working on something for that. I don't know if it's going to be next week, but it'll probably be soon. So if you have any suggestions, I take suggestions. Throw them out there. Let me know what you want to see, what you want to look at, and we'll just run with this, because, again, I'm having fun. Hopefully you guys are having fun with these look back on the toys, and I will see you all next week.